Before I give you an update on our finances, I just want to stress that almost everything we do at Trent is only possible because so many of you have committed to give regularly and generously to the work and ministry of the church. We are so grateful to those of you who invest financially in this way. So let's take a look now at how your investment in God's work here has been used. We'll start with the headlines before getting into the detail. So the church's financial year runs from July to June. So all the charts that I'm about to show you represent the situation in the 12 months up to the 30th of June 2025. Now, in last year's Vision Talk, I explained that the financial climate recently has been particularly challenging, principally due to rising utility prices, general inflation, and increases to the real living wage. In the year to June 2024, we had reported a significant deficit, you may recall, of £130,000. This was better than the budget we had forecast, but still a significant deficit, with outgoings exceeding incomings. So coming into the last financial year, 2024-2025, we worked hard with our teams to identify areas where we could tighten our belts, and we set a budget of minus £50,000. So still a deficit, but an improvement from the previous year. And through a combination of increases in regular giving, a good performance from our trading team, and careful management of our costs, we actually managed to do better than budget. And we ended the year, we came in with a small surplus, which was a great outcome, a great performance from the whole team. And once again, thanks to so many of you for your generous giving. So let's look at that in a bit more detail. And then at the end, I'll touch very briefly on how things are going at this point of time, at the time of this recording, 7 months into the new financial year. And it's fair to say that we have a few additional challenges now. But first, let's look at 2024 and 25. So here's the income stack. The total amount that came in this past year was just below £2.86 million. 71% of that is regular giving, which came in primarily through the bank by standing order. And as you can see, most of our income comes in this way. If you're able to give regularly in this way, it really helps us with budgeting and planning. 3% is other giving, including one-off gifts that come through the bank and to Church Week and the offering baskets. 18% of our income was gift aid. That's tax that's reclaimed from the inland revenue on most of what's given. 7% of our income is profit from the great performance of our trading activities that is then gifted to the church. And this includes external organisations using the warehouse for conferences, the bar, and also the Whitebird coffee shop. And then 1% is other income, which is predominantly interest on our savings in our reserves. So it's an encouraging thing. Our regular giving grew by 5% from the previous year. However, unfortunately, it doesn't look like that has continued to grow over the last 7 months, but I'll come back to that a little later on. We also saw an increase in the amount of gift aid that we were able to reclaim during that year, thanks to many of you who responded when we wrote to you about this last year, and that was a massive help. Thanks for that. Overall income for the church in 2024-25 was 7% up compared to the previous year. Now let's take a look at how this money was used, the expenditure stack. So this includes what we gave away. We spent just under £2.85 million. Despite a lot of care being taken to keep expenditure down, as I mentioned, factors such as the cost of inflation and growth in the real living wage have meant that this is still 3% more than the previous year. The figures for each of these groups includes the costs of staff dedicated to that area and the direct costs of making those ministries happen. Spread across each of these groups proportionately are general costs such as finance, IT and admin, and the costs of upgrading and enhancing facilities and equipment. So how that breaks down: 22% of our total income is what we call set apart, money that is to be given away or spent on activities and things that benefit those outside our church. So set apart includes our compassion ministries, overseas mission, blessing the community projects, and other outward-looking areas. It also includes the financial gifts that we make to other churches and charities and needs, and it also includes our contribution to the National Vineyard movement, of which we are part. 25% of expenditure related to our facilities, including areas like upgrading and maintaining all of our buildings, plus our mortgage and utilities costs. 28% is everything that we spend on making our Sunday services happen, such as worship, sound and media, kids, youth, and refreshments. And 20% is spent on our midweek ministries, including areas like small groups and pastoral care, kids and youth activities midweek, marriage and family events, and young adults. 5% covers training and equipping, such as discipleship courses and investing in the development of leaders. As you can see, whilst we budgeted for a deficit of £50,000, we actually came in with a small surplus of £8,000, which was a really good performance, and this has been added to our reserves. Again, this was due to a mix of factors, a number of you increasing your givings, one-off gift aid claims, plus some good cost control and good performance in our conferencing business. So that sums up the financial year up to June 2025. If we compare those stacks, looking forward into 2025-26, we knew that there were some further challenges ahead that meant that we agreed a budget deficit once again. In fact, if you look back to my talk this time last year, I flagged up some of the challenges that we were anticipating. The most obvious one was related to the government's decision to increase the rate of national insurance for employers, which we anticipated would cost us something in the order of £70,000 additionally this financial year. So with that in mind, we set a smaller deficit in our budget of £35,000 for this current financial year that we're halfway through. So 7 months in, where are we? Unfortunately, there have been a couple of further factors that are impacting us this year as we continue through the course of the months. Firstly, cost inflation has continued to impact us, with things like food, material and supplier support services rising faster than we had anticipated and budgeted. And then secondly, as I touched on before, whilst we saw encouraging growth in our regular giving last year, what we've seen over the last 7 months is that the giving has stopped growing at the same rate and has flatlined since around May last year. Now, that's not to say that people aren't giving. Loads of you are, and that is wonderful. We're so grateful to you for your regular, generous giving. But there is evidently an invitation and a need for all of us to look again at our own giving. Some of us might consider starting to give regularly for the first time, or for those who've not reviewed or changed our giving in a while, the invitation is there to have a look and consider adjusting the amount that we give to the church, praying as we do. Okay, so to look forward then, sadly, the financial challenges are still there. Those are the key factors, and we'll continue to work with the team to try and reduce the impact, but we do anticipate that our deficit is likely to be worse for the financial year of 25 to 26 than our original budget. We're also working on the next steps with the Compassion Building, which, as many of you know, has some significant structural issues, so please keep the church finances in your prayers. It's also worth noting the importance of continuing to invest in the buildings, to maintain what we've been blessed with, but also to facilitate the growth in new people coming towards us that we're experiencing at the moment as a church. So in light of all this, I want to say that we remain so grateful to those of you who are committed to giving regularly to the church. We continue to work with the team to maximise the impact of our expenditure, and of course we have the reassurance of reserves built up over the many years so that we don't have to make knee-jerk decisions about finances. So thank you for those, Lord. So my appeal to you would be, firstly, it may be that you've joined us recently and you haven't yet started giving financially. You consider yourself to be a member, but you haven't begun to do that. Perhaps you think that you've looked around and you think, wow, this church has got plenty of resources. They don't need any money from me. Well, I hope this clarifies that that isn't quite the situation we're in. But if you would consider this to be your church, I would encourage you to ask the Lord whether he wants you to start giving financially and joining in with those of us already investing in God's kingdom in this way. There's another group of us who are currently giving, but perhaps it's been a while since we reviewed it. If that's you, please would you consider reviewing the level of your giving as well. And then finally, the last thing that I wanted to mention is gift aid. If you're a UK taxpayer, we are more than likely able to claim an additional 25 pence from the government on every pound that you give and harness it for Kingdom activity. But we can't do that if you don't give us first your consent to do so. So if you haven't, or if you've any doubt of whether you've done that, please do contact the finance team and check if you're not sure. You'll find details, all the details on how to do these things at trentv.org/give. And if you do make any changes, it would be really helpful if you could email the finance team giving@trentvineyard.org to let them know. If you have any questions about our finances, you're welcome to ask any of our trustees. The website page with our trustees' names on it can be found at trentv.org/trustees. Or if you forget what I've just said, if you forget any of that, go to the bottom of our website's homepage, click on Affiliation and Accountability, and there is a contact email, contacttrustee@trentvineyard.org, and you can also see a photo and a brief bio of each of our trustees. Thank you so much for watching. God bless.